Harris County Criminal Lawyers Association, Reasonable Doubt. What's up? I am here with co-host, lawyer extraordinaire, Justin Harris. Justin, how you doing?
Hey, man. How are you?
I'm okay. I'm trying to figure out the Facebook stuff. Can somebody, like, whoever's watching, can y'all do
Tell you how to do it?
Well, can y'all do some Facebook stuff so I can know people are watching and, like, respond to your comments and stuff? Because I can't currently.
Where do they go? Reasonable Doubt?
I don't know.
HCCLA?
Facebook is telling me, like, Facebook's telling me
HCCLA, Reasonable Doubt, Facebook.
HCCLA, Reasonable Doubt. Go to Harris County Criminal Lawyers Association, Reasonable Doubt. But it's telling me, like, you're restricted because I guess they think I'm going to say something bad. Hey,
you do that? Are you like a Facebook troll?
Maybe. They're freaking Russians, bro. The freaking Russians. It's the Russians. Look,
Makes
I'm going
sense.
to... Can somebody type something? Because usually I can see who's texting and who's typing things, but I can't now. It's the hackers, Russian hackers. Anyways, Harris County Criminal Lawyers Association joined one of the largest criminal bars in the entire country. Here with the extraordinary co-host, amazing trial lawyer, trench warrior, food connoisseur, Justin Harris.
Hey, man. Yeah, there's some of the other people who are with you. Who else is with you?
Well, who's
You're
with
fresh
me?
off of a victory. Who's with you? The Dream Team?
Part of the Dream Team. Yeah. We have, starting at point guard, Jonathan Vella.
Hi there. I just want to note
What's up, Jonathan?
Justin's been introduced to twice, and this is
Yeah.
my first time. Yeah. Anyway, hello everybody. How are y'all?
You'll get a couple more. Don't worry. Just wait.
You know, typically it's something of like a Pinky in the Brain scenario. Like, I just like present and just say anything. If Jonathan says, say this, I say it. That's typically how it goes. And then if I typically say...
It works.
Yeah, it works. It works perfectly. And if I say, Adam, help me on this, and then Adam does that. It's a very symbiotic. Adam Corral, ladies and gentlemen. Adam Corral.
There we go.
Hello, everybody.
Hey, Adam. Thanks for coming on, man.
Thank you all for having me.
So,
okay, so...
we've been off for a little while. A lot's happened.
Definitely.
Stuff's gonna happen out of the Supreme Court, and everybody's mad about stuff that's gonna happen. What all happened?
Well, let's, you want to do big, and then go small, or go small and
You
then
pick,
go big?
man. You pick.
Well,
Or have Jonathan tell you what to pick. However it works.
You know what? Let's talk about it, man. So, nobody can have abortions anymore. Good, bad, ugly.
It's a draft
What do you
opinion.
say?
There's a lot of things about this to talk about, and it's a draft opinion.
Right.
It was leaked, so it's not changed anything yet. But it looks like it straight up says Roe versus Wade is overruled.
Well, what's interesting is if we just look at the composition of the court, it seems like they have the votes, even though it is a draft, right? No doubt that it's a draft.
Mm-hmm.
What I'm interested in is how that will affect voter turnout, political turnout come November, right? I mean, depends on what the decision is, right? But it seems to me like they have the votes, and we'll see, I guess, as we move forward, whether or not that's actually finalized. I mean,
So, from my understanding, the opinion, which is like 100 pages or something.
Davey's already read it 3 times, just so we know.
Well, 4 times.
Right.
I've read it 4 times.
Very fast read.
I've read it. I speed read like
A fifth time before the show's over.
Right. And from what I understand, is the opinion is saying, look, we're going to let the states choose because you can't create an inalienable right out of cloth. and the states has to decide these kind of things. Look, in my opinion, there's certain inalienable rights that you cannot divest from people and humans. And just like the Constitution that we're all governed by in this country was cut from cloth, way back when the people that be decided to say there's a right to this. And the opinion says that right that they decided to pull from the cloth, from the ether, isn't right. And it should be a state right, and they created it from nothing. But you know what? Guess what? We created the Constitution from those certain inalienable rights.
Right. Right.
This is my understanding of my 7th reading of the 100-page opinion.
Well,
what says you?
He's not without basis, right? I'm going to read from the draft opinion really quickly. It says, we hold that Roe and Casey must be overruled. The Constitution makes no reference to abortion, and no such right is implicitly protected by a constitutional provision, including the one on which defenders of Roe and Casey now chiefly rely. I think that's what you're getting at, right? That
yes.
There's no contextual basis, or there's no textual basis, excuse me, for Roe and Casey. It's an interesting decision nevertheless. What says you, Justin?
Well,
hey,
I have a lot of problems. I have a lot of problems with it. An interesting thing that kind of gets to one of the issues that I have with it is the case is 50 years old, right?
Fair.
And for 50 years, states have been passing laws to try to whittle away or directly challenge Roe versus Wade. And, 40 years ago, there were laws that were passed in states that went up, hit the Supreme Court, and got overturned, right? If this opinion becomes law and overrules Roe, if the draft becomes final and is released and becomes binding authority across the country, apparently it will, what I've been reading is it will, like that, put into place laws that no one has thought about for decades because they were struck down so long ago under Roe versus Wade, which is going to mean that like people wake up the next day and they don't have a job. Like they work at a clinic or they work somewhere that's like shut down. It's going to be, there's going to be some kind of interesting, not to mention women who have appointments and, who are going to become pregnant and it's not going to be a pregnancy that they planned or want to continue. They're going to have issues. But there's going to be a lot of things. That's what we're talking about. I think there's going to be a lot of other little interesting things that go into effect from like a legal standpoint. Sure. If this kind of, because that's one problem that I have with this. And I think that's kind of what and I haven't read the opinion, but some of the things and some of the discussions I've heard about it is that the court recognizes that this is not a decision. These kind of controversial decisions should not be left to the Supreme Court. You shouldn't have one person, a president, making law, and you shouldn't have 9 people or up to however many they can have on the Supreme Court, as few as 5 and as many as 13 or something. You shouldn't have that many people making laws that govern the entire country. That's what like laws and the rules that we all live by are supposed to be meted out in the legislature. And in some ways, I understand that point. But the Supreme Court it's so obtuse to just pull the rug out of 50 years of precedent.
Well, they've been waiting. It hasn't the hasn't everybody been waiting for this thing to happen? And there's the opportunity has presenting itself, and it's time to act and time to do.
Well, I think what's ironic about it is for a long time, those on the conservative court have called those on the left judicial advocates, right? Based on what Justin had said, right? 50 years of precedent. It's only when we don't agree with the actual underlying basis or right that we're talking about that we are able to ignore precedent and create some sort of new law that governs the nation, right? I think that's interesting in its own right. But I'm curious to see how that decision will affect voter turnout come November. We're in a midterm election, right? We're We don't know exactly. Sure. I'm curious whether this will be significant in terms of getting out the vote and how that will affect both national and state and
But
local politics.
That's what I think Alito's opinion wants.
Right.
That's what those kinds of jurists believe, and not just jurists, but people who believe, maybe like fundamentalists, like democratic fundamentalists, if there's such a thing, like political fundamentalists, in a non-fascist sense. They want these protests, right? They want the people calling their representatives. That's how democracy is supposed to work. If this is a thing that the people want, is a woman's right to be able to choose what to do to her body, just like I have the right to choose what happens inside my body. I just don't so happen to have the ability to create life within my own body. So those laws don't touch me. And I think that there's going to be two ways to look at this. This is going to be like a states' rights thing and like taking the power away from the courts. But you also are going to be looking at, as we were kind of talking about today earlier, JV, privately with folks from the show, that, you know, this is also, at the end of the day, can be looked at as a privacy issue. And the Supreme Court in a lot of ways has Roe codified a recognition to like a right to privacy in medical decisions and things. And this this straight up gutted that. It cut the head off of it legally. If it's an overruling, it's like it doesn't exist anymore. So it depends on how you look at this. If you consider that a privacy right, and I do, then this was a huge step back for privacy in the United States. But if you see this as like, this is a decision that should be decided by the people, and that's a legislative power, and the court should stay out of it. But I think that the courts are supposed to be there to decide when the government starts to make laws that impact our individual rights. That's where courts get to decide if we've reached too far, if it's become unreasonable. And I think that's what Roe decided. So this is going to be a big mess for sure.
It's
in so many ways.
It's my understanding that the opinion, or that the projected opinion, is basically, look, it's not a right, okay? This right that it's a right that you created from the ether, from something else. And therefore, the states can regulate how they want to deal with this issue. And that's a problem, because for the last...
Yeah, but it's sorry to cut you off. And I see where that goes, you know, but it's kind of BS. Like, I'm tired of that, like, strict constructionist, like, Scalia argument. They're like, whoa, well, back then they didn't have automatic weapons, so we can't ban automatic weapons because the framers didn't intend to ban automatic weapons.
I agree, right?
You know, that's BS, because, like, we don't have, nowhere in the Constitution does it say that you have a constitutional right to have the court appoint an expert witness for you, right? But the Supreme Court has said you have a constitutional right to have the court appoint an expert witness for you if you can't afford one, if you're indigent, you know, and the same thing with an investigator. And so there's all these rights that the Supreme Court is like willing to say, okay, you have that if you're going to have this right, then you have to have these other things to go to access that right. If you're going to have a right to privacy, that means like also in the hospital or in a doctor's office with your doctor, or in your bedroom when you're making a decision with you're by yourself, with your spouse, with your family, with whoever you make decisions with your God, you know, it's not something that the majority rule should be able to say. That's what our Bill of Rights. We're not just a pure democracy, we're a republic. And that means that we have laws that stop and protect us, so that we can't all vote and say, you know what, we all voted and we want to kill Justin. Like, you can't do that in a republic. You can do that in a pure democracy. We have limits on our abilities for the majority rule.
Hey, but isn't this about babies?
Right. That depends on how you look at it.
And look,
you look at it from the mother's perspective, it's about her right to privacy and her right to make decisions about her body.
Well, and where does it end? You know, I'm asking the panel. And if I could figure out how to do Facebook, I'd love for you to comment. Anybody who's watching, comment or anything, I'd love for you to, or call in. They
probably are commenting. If you have JV's cell phone number.
Yeah, or just text me. We'll put it up. We'll put it up.
One day you sent me a screenshot of like a text message I had sent you, and you had like 1,200 unread text messages.
Look, I blow them up prior to trial, right? That's what happens.
That's all you, Jonathan?
Right, that's all me.
That's all you?
Right. But
anyway,
look.
But he will answer tonight if you text him. If you can't get through on Facebook, JB will answer tonight.
Todd DuPont says he was born to be wild.
Well, we all knew that.
I believe it.
That's a text message.
Yeah. Fairness, right?
I was about saying.
He is living up to his.
So look, what they're going to start to limit
statement.
the types of contraception that we can have. They're going to limit the types of surgeries we can have. They're going to limit the types.
Well, did you hear what our illustrious governor said he's going to do next?
No. What is he going to do?
He announced today so apparently there's a 1982 Supreme Court decision that is what established like free public school education for all children within a state, and including people whose parents are not documented. And that's in response to a Texas law that was passed and struck down in 1982, where it said like parents had to provide like proof of legal status or something. I forget what the language was, and that was struck down in this 1982 opinion. Greg Abbott thinks time is right to like challenge that because it's such a huge drain on our economy to bust people up from our border educate people.
So fine. And so we take away the right to abortion and or what they consider to be some sort of phantom right. And then we we go from there. We take away the right to contraception, and we take away the rights and access to being human and adults. We take away the rights to gender reassignment. We attack gay sex and
gay marriage is next.
We attack gay marriage, and
this signals to the conservatives, and this has been documented. This is not some kind of conspiracy theory or Justin's opinion.
Fair.
I've read this by people. There's been a decades-long concerted effort led by evangelicals to pack the court with judges who are going to rule their way. And all you need is enough of them and then enough years to go by to get precedent shifted and changed. Now, this ruling on this opinion that comes out of the Supreme Court, if this draft becomes law and is the ruling of the court in the end, you have a signal that, hey, states, all those other laws that the Supreme Court struck down before, send them up our way. We'll overrule precedent.
Well, what both of y'all are hitting at, right, is that this notion of the right to privacy, right, it encompasses so many more rights than just abortion rights, right? And even though these rights are maybe founded in penumbras and emanations, as an old Supreme Court case might have said, they do encompass rights that I guess historically and statistically, Americans value, right? We're talking about more than just abortion is what we're saying. And these sorts of things. I'm curious what we all think about the lack of uniformity across the United States regarding a law that would affect abortion in particular.
Well, and that goes into, we have to, if we're going to talk, as we go into that discussion, because you have to, here come the laws. You're going to leave the state to have an abortion, and that law is going to have, just like they did, I think it's Lawrence. Is it Lawrence? No, that's the
sodomy gay marriage.
That's a sodomy gay marriage one. Loving, I think it's Loving. It might be Loving. The one where they're going to start to criminalize people who go out of state to have abortions.
Loving was the interrace.
Right, and you're going to another state to have a marriage, and in this case, you'll be going to another state to have an abortion, and therefore everybody who participates in that is a crime.
What's also concerning to me as well is, right, I mean, statistically speaking, those that get abortions are from not statistically, they're impoverished individuals, right? What happens when the medical care that would otherwise be covered under, your Medicaid or
Medicare,
right? Those sorts of things. With those same, in other words, are we going to create a system where if somebody wants to have an abortion in Texas, they have to go to California and pay premiums and not be subject to the same sort of state subsidies that otherwise would be available to them if under state laws.
Well, and then you go to California, and then you get because California is all wacky and crazy. Kidding.
And my ex-girlfriend's from California. Right?
And then you're prosecuted in Texas for the abortion for participating in that kind of function or that process. God, and you know, DA Ogg.
But is that gonna like interfere with interstate commerce? Like, can the federal government step in under interstate commerce and like stop that if states start trying to like impose? But that's the other thing is like these laws that Texas did and that Oklahoma is looking at doing in Florida and other states that are starting to adopt is it's not the state doing it. It's it's like me suing somebody because the law now allows me to. The only way I can sue somebody for like hitting me if they run a red light is because there's actually a provision in the law that says if you run a red light and hit me, and cause damages, I can sue you. It didn't say that I couldn't sue someone for doing that.
Right.
So now it says I can sue somebody who I found out got an abortion or paid for someone's plane ticket when they went and got an abortion somewhere else, you know. But then does that start to interfere with interstate commerce?
Right.
You know? And
well, the answer to that is the answer to that is yes. Not there goes my mic. No, not personally yes, but I promise you that the government's going to say yes.
Well, that's the loving decision that
That's
happened.
loving.
Right. But yeah. Similar instances. But
and they're going to continue to create laws that criminalize and penalize both criminally and civilly individuals and anyone that's associated with these kind of things. And you know what's going to happen? We're going to have these movies in 50 or 100 years or memes about, you know, back alley abortions and illegal abortions and midnight railroads, which, you know, that's metaphor for people doing these things to, you know, that cause harm, that more harm than not, arguably,
wait, so you're
abort.
saying just like criminalizing things or putting severe civil penalties on things isn't going to change human behavior? Like,
hey, well, that's how we got rid of drugs abuse
and alcohol, right?
Right. That's how we got rid of guns too. Remember?
Right.
I've never heard of anybody getting charged with drug offenses these days, right?
I mean,
I haven't seen drugs,
let alone DWIs. Give me a break.
I mean,
what are drugs? How do you spell DWI? I don't even know what that is.
DUI.
So yeah, you're right. Like, this is obviously not going to stop abortion. It's not going to stop unwanted pregnancies or unexpected pregnancies or unplanned pregnancies. It's going to create more dangerous situations. But you know, I see the other side of this. Like, that's where legislature should step in, right? And the problem is we have like the most, and we have for years, like just completely impotent Congress. Nothing that needs to get done actually gets done.
Hey, did you use the word impotent on purpose?
Yeah, look at the definition. That's what Congress has proven itself to be.
Well, that's what my doctor told me. Okay. Sorry, I'm on TV. My bad.
You know, I mean, it's look.
Well, it's the ex-girlfriend from California, right?
All right, let's play.
News kind of comes.
Look, I mean, we're the Harris County Criminal Lawyers Association. We encompass Democrats, Republicans, conservatives, liberals. Let's do the devil's advocate. You know what? So what? So we're protecting these humans that are conceived. And that's how it's going to be. Because because humans are humans at conception. And you know what? They have rights too. And they can't speak for themselves. And you know, us as defense attorneys, for me, my personal thing is that we speak for people who cannot speak for themselves or who are unable to. And these people need a spokesperson. They have rights. They have the full protection because they are being conceived in the greatest country and time period that has ever existed on this planet, in recorded history, and therefore they deserve this protection.
Are you referring to fetuses in this regard?
I'm referring to fetuses. I'm referring and embryos.
Fair.
What? Okay. What says you? What says you?
I think it's challenging. That's an interesting point to be made. However, that point on its own, right, disregards the woman that's giving birth to the actual child, right?
Well, then, okay. Let's talk about that. Okay. The challenges in giving and the complications that can arise from giving birth. Some of the things that are commonly discussed are, should there be limitations? So, for example, ectopic pregnancies, rape, incest, these kind of things. Should there be exceptions to the rule? What says you?
Are we asking personally? I mean, my answer personally is yes, clearly and obviously, right? But that might be because I disagree with the underlying premise, right, with respect to the fact protecting women's rights and their ability to have this sort of a procedure. I'll defer to anybody else. I feel like I'm talking too much here.
You know, I don't know. You know, that's super tough. You know, man, how are you? Look, okay, fine, fair enough. I'm a lawyer and I'm being an advocate. I don't care if somebody is raped, somebody has genetic disease, somebody is the health of their mother. Every single, upon conception, every single being upon that deserves those rights. Period. And you know, when I put it like that, I'm almost believing it too.
Right, but that would have to agree with the underlying science that would say, hey, look, upon conception there is life, right? That in order to make that argument, you'd have to there would be a universal truth that is true, right? That upon conception there is life, right? That's the only way I think we can rationally get to a place where we can disregard the health and the interests of the mother.
Well, and interestingly, the opinion, the way I read it for the 9th time,
right.
Is they're saying that the right, the woman's right was cut from nowhere. I mean, it was from a natural right bestowed to them by God. And they couched it in such a way that the reality is, out of the 14th Amendment under liberty, that it's a states' rights thing. And the states need to choose and can choose how to regulate these kind of things. And there's really no inalienable rights that the woman has to exercise this choice. My argument is, it's the same thing in the Bill of Rights, same thing as the Constitution. That thing was cut from the certain inalienable rights that are destined to us by God. And around about 50 years ago, the Supreme Court said, guess what? There's another certain inalienable right bestowed to us by God of the right for a woman to choose how she's going to decide to treat her body, and that included abortion. And from what I understand, the opinion says, well, cool, but you kind of got that from God, a certain inalienable right, but the reality is the states have the right to choose under the 14th Amendment how to regulate that thing, and you can't just kind of like create some new inalienable right by God to say that women have this new right. I don't know. That's just tough, bro. That's just real tough.
I'd agree with you.
Should there be exceptions to it? You know what? Look, if a child is raped, or if a human is raped, you know what? Yeah, you know what? I think they got a choice. Let me put this to the panel. What if so now modern science, you know, if you're gonna go We're playing devil's advocate. God has given us science and God has given us choice. What if you can choose the gender of your child? What if you can modify the genetics of your child? What if you can, through science, find out that this particular child or this creation is through some sort of ectopic pregnancy is going to be terminal either to the egg and or the mother. Should there be exceptions? What says you? I mean, should there be any exceptions to this rule? Should there be? What says you? And I'm trying to get comments. You should text me. I can't get any comments because I can't figure out this Facebook thing.
The only comment I've gotten is it probably wasn't a great idea for us to spend so much time talking about this with 4 dudes.
That's a fair comment.
That's fair. You know, that's fair. You know what? That's absolutely right. That's absolutely right.
That's fair.
That's actually 100% right.
That's a great point.
In fact, we should just shut our mouth and just let women talk about it because it's...
Hey, that's where I'm at.
Well, we could also say we support women, and I don't think that there should be this law at all. And I think that if somebody wants to get an abortion because, you know, whatever they want,
I feel out of bounds, right? Just trying to arbitrate women's rights and what they.
Yeah, we sound like the guys in Austin and Washington D.C. Right? Like, let's talk about women like they're not.
I didn't even think about. You know, initially I didn't even think about that. You know, you're exactly right. You're exactly
right. It was
right.
a comment someone else said. The obtuseness of our conversation for the last 32 minutes was lost on me, and someone else had to.
Well, that's what happens. That's what happens when you read the opinion 13 times now, right? You're up to 13.
14. I read it 4 more times. In it.
When you started that sentence.
Right.
Look, and allow me to disassociate myself with any sort of HCCLA.
Well,
and not even commenting on the opinion itself. From a legal standpoint, watching this happen, I never in my legal career, it could be about abortion, it could be about states' rights, it could be about gun rights, it could be about class rights, whatever. The phenomenon that's happening now, I never thought I would see something so bedrock that I grew up with. Like, this is I'm 38 years old. And this is a fundamental, universal principle that I, as a human, have grown up with.
Right.
And the idea that this has flipped is, and because I love the law more than anything. Like the law, you cannot disassociate me from the law. I love it. This is who I am. Is so profound and so groundbreaking that I'm literally still processing how I'm supposed to interpret the world, what it means, and how to participate in a society that has literally flipped the script on something, whether I agree with it or not, whether I believe in it or not. It has literally flipped something so fundamental to our society and us as a people that it's incredible to me. I'm still processing it. I'm still like, what? What? Wait, hold on. Like, there's
Well, and that's the crazy thing about the court, right? Is what we've started to see lately is the court is supposed to, and it's always been, and I don't know, I actually found like a little sense of comfort in this. They're always like there to make sure if something crazy happens in the legislative and executive branch, the court's there to go, well, okay, no, stop. You can't do that. You can't legislate that kind of thing. And this is kind of showing that no, not only can the court not do that anymore, but they're going to start pulling the rug out from underneath people, with no notice. I mean, I guess the leaking of the draft opinion at least gives people some notice, but unplanned pregnancy is kind of unplanned by nature. So,
this is what I'm talking about. And the question is, like, what's next? And the reality is that maybe I have been living in this world where the majority or some portion of it is enough to flip that script. And maybe I've just been wrong the whole time. I don't believe that in any sense of the word.
I think a better clarification is what's meant is a majority of the court, right, is enough to flip whatever is there. But I don't think that the majority of persons living in the United States would agree with the same majority as the court. I think statistics back it up. I'm curious to see because I'm going to be honest, I feel out of place discussing an abortion issue that I don't want to be, that I frankly just want to support women in their rights to that's what I'm saying. I'm curious about what effect this will have politically, not only nationally, right, but whether it will invigorate, especially the Democratic Party as we head into midterm elections, and how that sort of energy, if at all, will affect our elections.
Well, let's talk about that. And so the idea is fine. Supreme Court overrules Roe versus Wade, and from my understanding of my 18th and a half reading of the opinion, that the states get to choose how they're going to regulate these kind of things. So it's not a constitutional right. The idea is the people are going to have to vote out anyone in favor of these kind of things and bring in people who are going to support not a right anymore, but the access to abortions.
What I mean specifically is, hey, for years, those on the right have advocated for this type of decision, right? We don't even know if it's final or it's just a draft at this point, but we believe they have the votes, right? For years they've done this. Does this decision change the enthusiasm on the right to get out and vote? And how does that, or does it also have the same effect on the left in terms of getting people out to vote and making sure that, hey, at least at the state legislature level, people are able to voice their concerns about this sort of new change in abortion law? But
yeah, man, that's incredible, isn't it?
Fair.
Right? It's not. It flips the script on all kinds of things, and it's difficult to not say like, "Oh, well, let's go with the slippery slope argument." But at the same time, we the people, right? We the people. Anyways, last words on this topic, because I can't get any. Is anybody getting any Facebook comments or feeds on anything? Because I can't even get a live feed. I can't even see us talking on Facebook in a live manner. Anybody?
Are you on the internet?
Yes, I'm on the internet, Justin.
Is it plugged in?
We might have been shadow banned.
By the Russians.
Yeah.
Hey, how about the Russians? How about the Ukrainians just kicking the Russians' butt?
Yeah.
Yeah.
How about that? Look, and so Roe versus Wade, Russians are invading, Ukrainians are kicking butt.
Yeah, the world just ending. That's it.
Ramona Franklin having
we
jury
thought it all
trials.
couldn't be any worse after a pandemic for 2 years. And it's like, no, it can be. Yeah. And then Judge Franklin, did you read, what was it, ABC 13?
Yeah, yes, I did.
Wow.
Hey, Ted Oberg, ABC 13, Ted Oberg, you could have put that piece out earlier, and you could have given some props. Yeah, and you could have given some props to Judge Abigail Anastasio before she lost her election. You could have looked into all of this, and maybe the public would have maybe made a different decision, but they didn't. I'm just saying, Ted.
Yeah.
ABC 13.
Don't add us. But yeah,
I mean, I'm just saying, man. I'm just saying, like you could have, like somebody could have commented on this kind of stuff, like for the last 2 years because it's been in a pandemic, and it's incredible to me that like, oh, nobody in the news knew that there was like a 40,000 case felony backlog and a 40,000 misdemeanor backlog, and nobody did a piece on it, and nobody looked at the stats when we've been talking about it for years, literally years. And when it's all over the FDAM's website and everything, and nobody says anything about it, give me a break. I just think give me a break.
And just so we're clear, the statistic that I have in front of me is the 338 has 3,395 pending felony cases, and according to the county data, that's 1,000 more cases than the average of 2,186 cases for all the rest of the criminal district courts. It's a tremendous backlog, and I do agree with regard to the timing of the piece.
It's an incredible backlog. Yeah. Oh, and you know, don't get me wrong, Ted, and ABC 13, we appreciate at the end saying, oh, and by the way, Judge Anastasio lost. How about you run that piece during the election? Look, best of luck to Catherine Thomas and best of luck to Lori D'Angelo. I wish them the best. May the best candidate win. It's an incredible contest and a very important one. But yeah, run the piece when it's relevant and when it matters. That's all I'm saying.
Yeah, and voters, go educate yourself about, you know, the people who you're voting for and voting against. Don't just look at their names.
What else? Well, based on that piece, the court's having trials now. The Judge Franklin's having trials, huh?
Really?
That's my understanding.
Yeah, and Stephen Greenlee is the first person to be the test piece.
He tried the first case?
No, and Stephen Greenlee. Here's the thing, but
yeah, he tried it.
Stephen Greenlee is in the middle of, I think it's a murder or something real serious. Stephen Greenlee is an incredible lawyer, an amazing lawyer, in the trenches for years, has a reputation that precedes himself, and all of the above. And quite frankly, Judge Franklin can run a trial too. Like, I mean, she runs it great. I'm not saying anything bad about her in trial or anything like that whatsoever. I'll go on the record. She gonna listen to the evidence, make her rulings, and do her thing. But it's going to take a hell of a lot of stuff to clear her backlog. It just is. Recently, we had a meeting in the, I don't know, with stakeholders. I don't know. It was stakeholders or people who make decisions. HCLA was invited. Mario Madrid, Joe Venus, the current president of HCLA, was there. Brendan Dunn, Damon Parrish, Alex Bonin, the public defender, was there. I showed up late.
Well, because you're reading all the opinions.
Well, I was reading the opinions. That's how I showed up late. So there were a couple suggestions to get the backlog out, and I would love. This is the thing that I would love if I could figure out how to see something live or something. Is anybody getting any live feed?
Might be able to find it.
HCLA, look on the live feed. It's not. Justin, are you getting anything?
I don't do Facebook. I mean, my computer, I think it'll go there. I've never tried.
I'm not getting anything. So
but I don't know how to log in or see it. What do you want me to do?
If you know me personally, please text me so we can talk about it and we can like comment on things. There were kind of like 3 points that the defense, or how about we put the phone up? Can we put the phone up? Call in. Let's put the phone up. Mark, Houston Media Source, can you put the phone up? There it is. Let's just keep it up. Call the number. Call in. Judges, prosecutors, defense attorneys. Why don't you call in? So we had this big stakeholder meeting. Nobody said not to say anything, so I'm going to say it.
Shoot.
Well, there were 3 kind of points. The first one was, look, we need to address the backlog, okay? And one of the things...
we have a... Did you know that we have a... we have a Facebook page in Portuguese?
Yeah, I made that. It's a long story.
Yeah, yeah. Jonathan used to date a Portuguese
very
girl.
long story, yeah.
And look, it went brilliantly. Or as they
How do
say
She
in
does-
Portuguese, bourgeois.
Well, I mean, Rick Oliver's commented on it, but I can't
Did
even
Rick
tell what
call?
date it is.
You know,
I don't
Rick is very cultured. Rick is one of the most cultured people I've ever met in my life. The man speaks like 4 languages. Anyways.
All right, I cut you off. I'm sorry. I'm trying to find our page. I've never been there before.
So, one of the ones, in no particular order, was to create and to continue like a Zoom docket, right? So that way people can hit the resets, hit the status conferences, hit the items that the judge wants to know and move forward. I think that's brilliant because we all know there's certain courts that just take an hour to get through, and you're going to prioritize them in however you prioritize your docket. You might go late, you might go early, you might go middle of your docket, just because you know the second you walk into that court, you're going to be there for a while. It's also known as the 19th floor. It's the floor of death, the floor of doldrums. The other one is, there's a couple other floors which I won't mention. So if we can continue with Zoom and maybe they put out what on the civil side or the family side would call some sort of like a submission docket where we can just address certain issues that have to be addressed quickly and then we can move forward. So keep the Zoom. What says you?
I think it's a fair way and efficient way to get through the docket. I think
okay.
Good.
Okay, real quick. I'm sorry.
No.
I don't know if Mark can see this or if anybody can see this, but this is what's playing on our Facebook page.
That's what I'm saying.
It's showing May 5th,
and
it's showing like a firework.
That was my test earlier.
It's
live right now.
No, but it's on mine too, Mark. That's all I can see, Mark.
I have as well. That's Facebook's fault because you're transmitting live right now.
All I can see is a 30-minute test on Facebook Live.
I'm good. We can keep rolling.
I'm just saying. Likewise, it's Facebook's fault. Elon.
Mark.
Fix Facebook.
Wrong rich guy.
It's all I can get is a 30 minutes of the preview. It goes to 32 minutes, and that's it. That's all I can get. Jacob, my brother's. He should be watching live. He just said, "Killed it, bro." I think he's talking about the not guilty we got earlier today.
No, he's talking about the fast speed reading that you had of the opinion.
Well, I've already read it 24 times today.
Yeah.
Okay, so the second thing what do you think about Zoom? What's your comments on Zoom, Justin? What's your thoughts?
It's very efficient when you don't need to be in person. Like there's plenty of things that we got to get done in person. We talked about this for the last 2 years, but there's so many things that we don't need to be in person for. And it's really good for folks our clients who have to go to work, have childcare issues, school, transportation issues. They don't live in the area. They can check in if they need to, show the judge I'm here, I'm taking things seriously, and then leave. And it's efficient in some ways. I think it makes sense for courts to keep it around. It's a resource, right? It helped out. It proved useful in some areas. So I think any court that just like blanket shuts it down is like, turning its back on a piece of technology that got it through a really tough time. Like, come on, Judge. If there's a court that's just pulling the plug on it altogether, I think it's a court that should kind of step back and think about how it did serve some functions. So I've heard some courts thinking about going to like hybrid dockets where some days they have, Zoom dockets only, and some days they have in-person dockets only. I know of some courts like in Fort Bend that do that. And, I think there's Zoom, whatever video service they use, if it's an effective resource for communication and moving cases.
Well, what says you, Adam?
I agree. It's one of the positive things that came out of the whole thing. I mean, Zoom for anything uncontested. I mean, appearances for people who have to work or have kids. I think it's great. And federal courts are using it. I think it's one of these that should stay for those type of things, those matters that don't require in-person appearances.
The second thing that was considered was the creation of a what they were calling a kiddie court, where this court would only hear cases of sexual assault with children. Sexual assaults, children 14 to 17, under 14, trafficking of minors, prostitution of minors, these kind of things. One of the things that was
I feel so bad for the court staff that gets assigned to that court.
It's terrible. And so what? So you're gonna have all the felony court dockets send all their child sex cases to one court, and only one of them is going to get tried.
Court for sex cases.
Well, and that's what they're saying. You know what? Instead of creating some sort of child sex case court, and then I got some.
Get a phone.
Oh, we got a phone.
What?
Well, okay, let's get a phone.
Someone needs to turn down their audio in the background. Turn on their TV.
But this is not about sex trafficking or child sex. Can I still ask a question?
Sure.
Who's this?
My name is Tammy Williams, and I was calling because I had an incident at the school where a child had been threatening my daughter, saying that he was going to kill her. So it escalated to where the child, over about, I want to say 5 or 6 months, he ended up writing a note saying that he was going to murder her, a journal that he writes in every day. So above the note where it says he's going to murder her, it says, today's journal, I went to gym, I didn't like it, just like a whole bunch of, daily activities. So
what's your question?
The question is, when I reported to HPD, I went through all the steps. My child right now is having PTSD. So she's having
What's your question? We need your question fast. We got 4 minutes.
Is a school held responsible for not acting on that because nothing was done? And DA Otto said that was childhood behavior. So is anybody held responsible because nobody acted to protect her at the school, or what happened?
That's a good question.
Thank you, Mark. If you can cut it. Thank you.
We're dealing with a lot of bullying issues and stuff like that in schools these days, and I don't know. This is a criminal defense show, Tammy. We appreciate the call, but we can talk about criminal liability and things like that, but civil liability. I stay out of civil court, but that's an interesting question. Like when schools know about behavior and kids are getting hurt, Well, we as criminal defense attorneys, we expect the jailers in the jail to make sure our clients.
We got 3 minutes, Justin.
Don't have like fight club with inmates. So I just want to tell Tammy, thank you for the call. It's nice to know that there are people watching the show and that they're calling in with their questions about the law, right, JV?
Yes, I think. People need more. We're going to keep the phone up. More people need to call. The reality is, Tammy, this addresses what we're talking about. The home courts need to address, and the district attorney's office need to address the most serious cases like what you talked about, Tammy. And all of the other cases, this is one of the things that came out in the meeting, is like I called it the nonsense docket, and I got some backlash of it. But all the cases about, like, nobody showing up to court, nobody wants to prosecute, small drug cases, like, these are things that we as citizens in Harris County across the board are not, worried about to the degree versus some of the things like Tammy said. Home courts and district attorneys have to rally around and deal with these cases. All the other cases regarding things that aren't as serious like what Tammy said should go to a different docket. We can try 3 or 4 of those cases a week, really like 2 of those cases a week, 3 of those cases a week, and knock those out and clear out all the backlog in town. We got 1 minute left. Justin, final thoughts. Go for it.
Backlog problems are wholly created by the district attorney. Like we've been saying this for so long. if they want to clear a backlog, they just sit down and like really analyze their cases and make potentially some tough decisions. And I'm not talking about like letting murderers or child rapists out, but like we got thousands of cases, and I guarantee you can lose a lot of those if you get rid of ones that eventually are going to get dismissed anyway. Like, so let's just cut to the chase and do it.
Adam, final words.
Bring us full circles. Go back to, I think you were going to touch on enforcement of this abortion issue and how it's going to affect us as practitioners. We're going to have to process it a lot faster than everyone else because we're going to be dealing with it on the ground level right away.
Jonathan.
I'll reiterate. I'm in closing. I'm curious about how the recent opinion is going to affect how voter turnout comes out in November and how that will sway elections, especially in Harris County.
Absolutely.
Join HCCLA. HCCLA.org. Go to the CLE. Buy your banquet tickets because they're selling out. They're going to be
next Thursday.
They're the hottest ticket in town. Go. And it's free drinks for everybody. Justin Harris is buying it. That's what I heard.
I'm not even going to be there.
Go to the banquet. For Harris County Criminal Lawyers Association, Mark Protel in the booth for Houston Media Source, and everybody, we send you much love, justice, and peace. J. Julio Vela, we out.